Jupiter Broadcasting presents this show in mega stereo sound. This episode brought to you in part by GoDaddy.com.
This week on the Linux Action Show, we've got the latest and greatest from System76. This machine is a monster, and we try to punish it. Find out how hard it tears through our barrage of action benchmarks. Plus, Linus opens a can on openSUSE, and we geek out over some new Linux games. Oh, this week on the Linux Action Show! And welcome to Linux Action Show, Season 20, Episode 9, which is the 199th episode.
That's right.
199. My name is Brian. That guy is Chris.
Hey there, Brian. Check it out.
199, dude.
Whoa there, man.
I'm knocking stuff over. But I'm excited, because next episode, hold on.
All right, well, wait. I'll
Stuff runs Linux. The next episode's 200.
In a second. I know. And we still got nothing.
I need your guys' help.
We've gotten some suggestions in the subreddit.
We've gotten suggestions. I don't like them yet. And I don't mean to poo-poo on you guys. They've been good suggestions, but not for the 200th episode.
Right.
We need something cool. We need something big, and we've got 1 week to pull this off.
Brian,
come up with ideas.
The law. Whoa, I'm like way lower. Hello there.
Yeah, hi.
Here's the law of events. The closer you get to the event without having planned, the less epic the event can be, because usually to make it more epic, it requires pre-planning and coordination.
So if we could get a really great idea by Monday morning, that gives us 1 week of epic to build up, and that would be great.
And here's the other problem, right, is that, well, as a matter of fact, it's Sunday mornings when we do the Linux Action Show, so that makes things even harder to do something on a Sunday morning. So yeah, it's a difficult one. I think what we're going to do is, I think we just... I
loved your idea, by the way. We were chatting this last week. We're like, what are we going to do? We were just sitting around brainstorming, and Chris is like, dude, road trip. And I'm like, dude, great idea.
Yeah, but where?
And then I think we both sat at the screen staring at it for like 10 minutes.
Yeah.
I don't know where to go.
It's so true. I don't know where to go, how we would do it, or why we would go.
Or where, why. Yeah. Like, we could go to Portland.
All right, so I don't
know. I got nothing. But seriously, Reddit, or linuxactionshow.reddit.com.
Yeah.
If you do the Reddit thing, just post a suggestion as a comment in there, and maybe people can vote on it, and we can come up with some cool stuff. Anyway,
great.
All right, what runs Linux? Tell me what runs Linux.
This is pretty cool, Brian. You're probably already aware of this, Brian, but the AB 5500 XI solid sequencer runs Linux.
Of course it does.
Yeah, Brian,
all of my favorite AB solid sequencers.
Yeah, well,
Linux.
Especially the 5500 XI series.
Oh, that's the good stuff.
Actually, this came from a fellow viewer out there, Andreas Wahlberg, and I think that's how you say his name. And he was
no one knows.
He was getting his DNA sequenced, and he noticed that the DNA sequencing machine actually runs Red Hat Enterprise Linux, and not just that, it's got a full-on
it's a full
GNOME desktop running on top of this DNA sequencing machine.
Little two-panel GNOME desktop thing going on.
Isn't that great? So yeah, he sent this along. He pinged me to make sure I saw it. I mean, you know, if you're going to have new fancy medical equipment sequence your DNA, it better run Linux.
It's better as heck.
I don't want that
Linux.
crap run on XP Service Pack 3 or
heck
something.
No.
Man.
Makes a man cranky when that happens.
Fun show today.
Yeah.
Yeah, you can tell we're both sort of worked up for this episode.
Yeah.
So coming up in the second half of the show, we've got a review of the new System76 Leopard machine, the Leopard Extreme.
It is a massive rig.
Yeah.
It is water-cooled
beast.
Behemoth
so we're gonna
of
do
Linux
that.
power.
Matt will be joining us. We'll have a third guy up here in studio, and that'll be at the second half. Then we've got news coming up. Before all of that, we've got our picks. We've got app picks, Android picks, and of course, a random distro pick.
No, we can't do any of that.
Oh.
We have to talk about GoDaddy.com
I want to talk about GoDaddy.
Put Danica on the screen.
Good morning, Danica.
All right, there we go. You were in Danica's way for a second.
You know, I got an email from Danica.
Yeah?
About the whole...
How's Danica doing?
Well, again, only in the subject line. She must be busy.
Yeah.
You know, I think that might have been why she crashed. I think she might have been emailing me on her phone while she was driving.
Well, that's why it's in the subject line.
Maybe remember last week?
Yeah, no, I know. It was rough.
And they're all about you. I don't know if I will cover them on air. But
it's all right.
It's, again... I should get a hold of your wife and make sure that she knows what's going on.
Here's the thing, Danica. I really appreciate all the attention. It does make me a little uncomfortable at this point now. Like, you're great.
Well...
You're great, Danica.
Brian,
you're top. What's happening?
I'll tell you what's embarrassing is the whole conversation got started because I wanted to see if she was available for dinner, and she just asked about you. But you know what? She did manage to pass along. She managed to cram that in the subject line, and she wanted us to remind folks that GoDaddy has an offer for free private registration.
Yes, sir.
When you buy a .com or .co, and if you use the code...
I used that this week.
You did?
I did.
Well, look at you. Oh,
yeah.
That's right. You got a new website going. If you use the code March9 when you check out, boom, free private registration.
Boom.
Always a good idea. You could also get the .co for $7.99. They have extended that awesome deal, which is better than you can find anywhere on their site. Get the .co.
And here's the thing, guys. You can't have a business without a .co.
Well, I mean, you could, but you'd never be like, you screwed up. You're embarrassing yourself,
I
right?
don't think I have a .co.
Well, I mean...
Do you have a .co?
No, but we constantly are embarrassing ourselves.
Yeah, well,
So,
that's kind of what I set out to do.
We're kind of proving the point right
that's
now.
That's kind of our thing.
Yeah,
right.
I'm kind of ashamed just to be sitting here not having a .co.
Right. Really, we should get rid of the .com, too. We should just have JupiterBroadcasting.info.
Right. Well,
that's it.
Well, but here, I'll tell you why you want to get a .co, B-Man.
All right,
If you
tell
use
me.
the code COFEB7 when you check out,
Yep.
you get that effort for $7.99. Look, you can't even find it that cheap on GoDaddy's website.
Oh, that is a good
You
thing
get a
to
.co
do.
for the cheapest.
Yeah.
They're going to end it at the end of March, so go get that now. That's code COFEB7. Or if you want that free private registration, which, come on, if you're going to build your stalker website, you don't want people tracking you down.
Nope.
Use the promo code March9.
Yeah, that's what I use to register. I'm taking pictures of Chris from behind.com.
Nice, dude.
Yeah, it's all private, so he won't know.
You ought to put a little PHP gallery up there. Make it nice.
Yeah.
Take advantage of
It's
the
all
fast
static
hosting.
HTML right now.
Right.
Yeah, it could be better. Could be better.
Could be better. Now, if you're just checking out and you want to save 10%, use the code Linux. If you want to save 20% on shared hosting, use the code Linux.
Yeah, but those are old hat by now.
I hear you, man. Everybody wants the .co's and the free private registration.
Yep.
All right, B-Man, are you ready for my Android pick of the week?
I can barely contain myself.
Well, stand by, sir, because it's a good one, especially if you're self-aware, or if you're a little conscious. Maybe let's just say conscious. I won't say self-aware, but if you're conscious of the fact that your privacy, your important little details, could be leaking out all over the internet like a leaky faucet.
Doesn't happen, but go ahead.
All right. Well, you know the guys over at Lookout, B-Man. They've got, they're going with a more narrow-focused approach now. They got Lookout Security, but I'm not talking about that. I'm not talking about Lookout Security. I'm talking about Lookout Ad Network Detector. And what this guy does is you start a scan on your Android device. It scans every installed app on your phone or tablet and then tells you each of the different ad networks or tracking analytics data that those applications use.
Really?
And then it gives them all in a big list of report and says, okay, well, we detected 5 in this ad network, 4 in this analytics network. And by the way, did you know this ad network is tracking your unique ID, your applications you have installed, and all that kind of stuff. So it goes through and gives you full kind of 411 on what the different apps on your device are doing.
Look at that.
And
that's a kind of a good idea.
Yeah, and it's a free app, too. So, why not check it out? You can run it on a tablet or a phone. You just need to have Android.
Does it scan itself?
Brian, I don't know about that.
So is there another app that does something like this that you could use to scan this?
To watch the Watcher?
Yeah.
Who's watching the Watcher?
Who watches
Brian?
the Watcher? That's what I'm saying.
You know what I go by with that kind of stuff, too? Because that is an actual concern, is I go by, and it's not a perfect rating, but I go by the reviews. If I see it's got a bunch of really good reviews and I read through and it looks like people are being kind of cynical and I'm like, okay, they're looking for this kind of stuff, then I tend to say it's safe. So this has got an average rating of 4.5 on the Android market. 298 reviews have given it a 5-star. So I would say it's probably a pretty good chance. All of the reviews
That's
are
not bad.
Yeah, they're all really popular reviews. So anyways, go check that out. It is Lookout Ad Network Detector. It is a free app, and you can find links in the show notes.
You know what that is? That's awesome.
You ready for your app pick this week?
Yeah, let's do the app pick.
Or you want to do the district?
Let's do the app pick because this one's straightforward. The app pick this week is Composer.
I like
one
Composer.
that many of you have probably used. Now, here's the thing. You may be the kind of guy that's like, I'm going to hand code all of my web pages. My web pages are all hand coded HTML, PHP, and JavaScript with a little Ruby thrown in there just because I can't get away from the Rails. I love me the little Rails. I love some Rails time. But sometimes you're like, well, what is the HTML color code for that color?
Right.
Sometimes you just be like, wait a minute, how do I make a table again?
Right. Well, or how
something.
does this look?
Yeah, how does this look? I just need to whip something up real fast. Composer is great for that. Now, in the past, I've had problems with Composer. It's been not stable. It's been all crashy. But you know what? Lately, over the last year or two, Composer's just been rock solid.
Composer's got like...
It's just a great, solid, WYSIWYG HTML editor is what it is.
The thing about it that I think a lot of people are familiar with is like with Dreamweaver is you've got the code view, the design view, or the split view.
Yeah.
Composer rocks that as well.
It does great.
What I found interesting about Composer is it's actually based on Gecko, not based on KHTML, which you would think with a name like Composer.
Yeah. Well, Composer's pretty old.
Yeah, I guess
Composer's been around a long time.
What was that really old? Remember when the Netscape folks put out an HTML editor like a long time ago? What was that called?
Well,
is it based on this?
Netscape used to have an HTML editor built into Netscape.
And then it broke it
Netscape
off.
Communicator.
And then they broke it off.
It was like Seabird or something. Or not Seabird.
But I almost wonder.
Something like that.
I almost wonder if that's what this is based on.
I don't think so. I think this is a totally different deal. Sea Monkey, maybe that's
no.
it.
Sea Monkey and Bluefish are different ones. Yeah, I see the chat room is going on there. Yeah, no. Composer was their email client. Anyways.
Yeah. Communicator, Netscape Communicator had a built-in HTML editor. But anyway, Composer is great. It runs on every platform in the world, which is just handy.
And it's pretty much in every distro's repo.
Yeah, so I kind of view Composer as one of those great, slide your company more towards Linux apps. It's like you put on a good cross-platform web browser, you put on OpenOffice, you replace Dreamweaver with Composer, and you're getting that much closer, just shuffling everyone over to a Linux distro.
Well, and I'm fairly comfortable with HTML, but every now and then,
nice to have.
Yeah, there's just something that's like I don't use very often.
Yeah,
and
exactly.
It's like, do I just want to make sure I'm doing this right?
And let's be honest, if you're not putting together anything all that terribly complicated, do you want to spend the time futzing around with HTML to make it look just right, or do you just want to just type some stuff out, throw in a few pictures, and call it a day?
And it does clean HTML too.
It does a really good job of it. Yeah. All right, so the distro, the random distro of the week is something totally different than what we've been talking about so far. It is Digintel, which is a nice little CentOS based asterisk and free PBX server. So basically, it's a nice little telephony drop-in server system. So if you want to set up a nice digital and analog kind of combined phone system running server awesomeness, Digintel is kind of kick-ass in that regard.
Yeah, I mean, they're combining CentOS, a fantastic, server platform OS, especially for something like this that just sits around for a long time.
Just hangs out and doesn't die.
Free PBX is in there. They've also got Voice Pulse, OpenFire, and Asterisk, of course, as well as Postpix, OpenVPN. So you could, what's cool about this is they have a whole solution so you could even take remote IP phones and configure them to use OpenVPN to VPN into your phone server and have a nice secure tunnel. It's very cool.
Awesome. Yeah. So this is a really great little system. It's fairly regularly updated. I think it was last updated probably around the late last year. But it's not a sort of system that you need to update every couple of months. So honestly, I think this is about the right amount of time.
And they claim here that you don't need, this is crazy, they say you don't need any Linux or asterisk knowledge to get it installed.
That's what they say. That's what they say. I haven't set this up and run it, but I was looking into it, and I'm like, this is pretty cool.
I have a dream, Brian, that one day all callers into Jupiter Broadcasting
will go through an asterisk server, and then we can just pull all the sound out from there, get a list of the incoming callers, choose who we want to listen to.
Bank calls.
Wouldn't that be great?
Oh, my God.
Wouldn't that be great?
Yes.
Anyway, but this is pretty phenomenal. Digintel, I believe it's on version 3 right now. 3.4 came out last August. Or maybe actually a year and a half ago. I can't tell. But it's cool. It works. A lot of people are using this.
Yeah.
Rock on.
Good pick, B-Man.
Yeah.
All right, Brian, let's do the news.
What's new in the news this 199th episode week?
Oh.
Did you know it's the 199th episode?
I caught that.
Yeah. 199.
You know what's the top story?
199, dude.
On the 199th episode of the Linux Action Show, B-Man.
Ridiculous. What's the top story?
Ubuntu 12.04. It's beta.
That's the top story?
Well, it's got to be, because
there's got to be a better top story in here.
There's lots of top stories, but I'll tell you why this is the top one.
All right, lay it on me.
It's a mover and a shaker. Ubuntu's still the biggest distro.
I'm not trying to dog on Ubuntu here. I'm just saying that.
No.
Ubuntu hits beta like every other Thursday.
I'll tell you what it is. I think a lot of hopes are being hung on 12.04 as the one that pulls Unity together, the one that gets a lot of things working right. Plus, it's a long-term support. So in terms of Ubuntu releases, this is a big one.
This is the big release, isn't it?
And this new beta is featuring, which I didn't expect to see it this soon, the introduction of the new HUD, which we talked about a while ago, which is Canonical's attempt to kill the traditional menu and menu tree system. Now, I am running the Ubuntu beta, but I was running it before it was beta, when it was still alpha, and I just did an apt upgrade. I haven't seen this show up yet. I don't know how you trigger it yet. I haven't played with it much because I spend like 80% of my time under KDE 4.8 these days. But I'm playing with Unity more and more just to kind of warm myself up before I review. Yeah. And I got to say, Unity does feel like it is a little peppier.
It is a lot peppier.
Especially going from the earlier builds. A lot. Yeah. So that's good. Also, I think overall it's coming together. It's funny. During the early alphas, it was very, very alpha, which is, to be expected.
Yeah, it's alpha.
I know that's not too weird. No. But it got to the point where I was like, I'm not going to run this. I'm giving up on this. I'm not gonna bother with this. This is just it's too alpha. And then
you were angry
over the steady.
You went
updates,
over to KDE.
I did. Unity was just a dog.
Are you still a KDE?
I am. Well, 80%.
80%.
I'm easing.
What's the other 20%?
Well, Unity.
How do you do an 80-20?
Well, here's what I'm doing. So I have a 1204 box, and it's I just apt-get installed Kubuntu desktop, but it shipped with the Unity as default. So what I'm doing is after a big system update, I log out, I spend the day in Unity.
Oh, I gotcha.
I got the same apps.
Then you're getting a feel for it. That's good. That's good.
Because I don't want, when the review comes for the big show, I don't want to be like, oh my god, Unity, because there's just that ramp up process where it's something new and it's just difficult. Then I want to be over that nut before it's time to actually review it, because I think this 1204 they've spent
it's a big deal.
They spent so much time on optimization that I don't want just using Unity to be the barrier. I want to be comfortable with it.
I want to be comfortable with it.
Yeah.
See, this is the problem I've been having.
Yeah.
So I've got 1204 beta installed. I did a fresh install with the beta.
Yeah.
My problem is I'm running it using the Awesome Window Manager, because as soon as I had that going, I'm like, this isn't the Awesome Window Manager. I got so comfortable in that minimalist view.
Right.
I like Unity just fine now. I love the other window managers, and so I'm having a hard time getting myself to use it.
Here's where I found the appeal to Unity is I actually came from it the other direction with Xmonad and Awesome. Those things are so minimal.
Yeah.
Unity is also in itself a very minimal desktop, but just with a lot of more features.
Yeah.
So I kind of dig the minimalism of Unity in a sense. And plus, what I'm really trying to answer is, do I dislike Unity because it's the popular thing that everybody dislikes?
Yeah, jumping on the bandwagon.
Yeah.
Always fun.
Or do I actually have usability issues with it? And sometimes it's hard to tell, because you kind of get caught up in the emotions and the rants of everybody else online. And that Reddit poll that we covered last week, where Unity was just universally hated across the board,
people just were panning it. Yeah,
that kind of made me snap out of it and be like, am I just buying into hype here?
I think it's just hype, because it used to be I had legitimate gripes with Unity. Yeah, I did. I mean, it was buggy, it was slow, it was crashy, it was annoying as hell to use. I felt like it did not have the features it needed to have.
Right.
But now it's pretty peppy. It looks nice.
Definitely polished.
It seems to work well. It's polished. It's not crashing on me.
And I think part of what my
complaints are gone.
I think part of what my original issue with Unity was all of the issues Unity had at launch, but on top of that, how Unity was sort of pushed upon the Ubuntu community. Because Ubuntu's flag in the ground was, we are one of the greatest GNOME desktops you'll get, and we tie our releases to GNOME releases.
Right.
So that's how the whole cadence of Ubuntu came around. It was literally tied to the GNOME project. And so it was, for GNOME users, it was the Jesus distribution for GNOME. Well, that was the hope, right? And then when they came around and said, we're switching everything up, here's Unity, I think a large portion of my visceral, like, oh, screw that, was just that action in itself.
That makes sense. Yeah. I kind of get that, yeah.
Well,
anyway, we'll see. We'll see. We've got a little bit of time left before the official launch.
But if you haven't played with it yet, which I know I'm seeing more and more in our web stats, people are playing with it. But if you haven't played with it yet, might be a good time to get it. We'll definitely do a review of it when it launches on the show.
Probably.
All right, B-Man, the real big story of last week, which we talked a little bit about right before the launch on the big show, was the release of the Raspberry Pi for pre-order. And man, look at this tweet that came out during the whole pre-sale thing. This is from the Raspberry Pi Twitter account. We're so frustrated about the DDoS effect, and apparently some of you are very angry. It's all in caps. We're really sorry. It's out of our hands. Man,
I felt bad for those guys.
Did people
they got clobbered.
Yeah, right? It was something.
Honestly, it was wonderful. It was awesome.
The internet got angry
to see this happen. As a nerd, you see this happen every now and then.
Yeah.
Like when the San Diego Comic-Con tickets go on sale, they get clobbered. The internet goes into a frenzy for 3 days. No one can get tickets. People get angry.
It happens now with the Google developers.
It does. Yeah. And so, but now it's really nice to see a cheap Linux-powered ARM PC with no freaking case.
Yeah.
And no peripherals coming with it have the same effect. I love that. That's awesome. And you know what? I'm bummed out I don't get one.
I know. I tried.
At least not right now.
Both the websites were down when I went
down immediately.
And I was able to register my interest.
Yeah, me too. That's all I got. I registered a little interest.
They also are tossing in some upgrades. Did you see that? They're upgrading everybody's memory or something like that.
Yeah, they got some more RAM.
Yeah, so that's, gosh, $35.
It's such
I will get one, but not, I know, now what I have to do is I have to wait through the whole effing gets up on eBay, gets up on Craigslist for crazy prices.
And then I think the manufacturers are really ramping up their production because they've got the two manufacturers, because the Raspberry Pi folks are not selling this. They are basically referring you to companies who got the schematics and are selling it to you.
And those guys
cool.
Those guys did not seem to wrap their brains around the demand for this thing.
They had no idea.
They seemed to be the weak spot in this whole thing.
Yeah.
And I didn't expect it to go that route. I thought somehow, for some stupid reason, I thought the Raspberry Pi folks would be selling them directly.
I thought so too.
But I guess,
this does make sense. I mean, they're here to design it, to get it going, and to get this in people's hands. And honestly, this cuts out the extra steps of shipping them around.
Yeah.
This makes it so they can do it cheaper. It makes a ton of sense, but it means us, especially us in America, are going to be waiting a little longer for this awesome little rig.
Yeah.
That's okay. Just please, manufacturers.
Build more.
Do it quickly.
Please, sir.
Yeah.
We'd like some pie.
Yeah, we're hurting over here.
All right, B-Man, the next story on the news docket for this week, Mr. Torvalds himself, Uncle Linus, created some shockwaves around the Linux community by decimating the openSUSE project this week on Google+.
That was rude.
It was rude.
Oh, man.
I mean, of course, forever love for Linus. The man could do no wrong, except for he could maybe be a little bit less of a dick. I'm just saying. Do you want me to read it?
Yeah, could you read this actually? Because I think a lot of people haven't actually read this yet.
This is Linus on Google+. He says, venting. That's the first word there. I like to think that Linus says it like that.
Yeah, he says it like that. Venting.
I don't think I can talk about security people without cursing, so you might want to avert your eyes for now. I gave openSUSE a try because it worked so well at install time on my MacBook Air, but I have to say, I've had enough. There is no way in hell I can honestly suggest that anybody else... I know, right? He bolded it. Anybody in hell, I can honestly suggest that anybody else anymore. I've lost track what he's saying there. I first spent weeks arguing on the Bugzilla that the security policy of requiring the root password for changing the time zone and adding a new wireless network was moronic and wrong.
Well, continue.
All right, okay. I think they finally did get that fixed, but the time zone never did. It still asks for the admin password. And today, Daniela, is that, you say that?
Yeah.
His daughter, who I believe is in college, called because she can't add the school's printer without the admin password. Whoever moron thought that this is good security to require the root password for everyday things like this is mentally diseased. So here's the plea. He goes on.
Oh, God.
If you have anything to do with security in a distro, and think that replace my kids with salespeople on the road, etc. Think, mainstream business customers need to have root passwords to access some wireless networks, or to be able to print out a paper, or to change the date and time settings. Please, just kill yourself now. The world would be a better place. And now, I need to find a distro that actually works on the MacBook Air.
Okay. I need to talk specifically to Linus for a second. Linus, no. Everything you just said is terribly, terribly, terribly wrong, my dear friend. I like you.
Yeah.
You're cool. I like anyone who gets all pissed off and goes on a little rant like that, because I know when you say things like they should all die, you mean that with a lot of love in your heart. You can tell the difference. You know what I mean? Like you can tell man. When he says, I think you should all die, he doesn't mean you should all die. He means, come on, guys, you should all die. You know what I'm saying? And I really appreciate that. But here's the thing. Why'd you buy a MacBook Air, Linus? You write the Linux kernel.
I know.
You. It's named after you.
I actually think it's very refreshing. I think he looks at it from a completely abstracted layer that hardware is hardware and the kernel and everything should just work on any piece of hardware.
Yeah. But come on.
The problem is Apple doesn't see it that way.
The manufacturer doesn't see it that way. If Microsoft came out with a laptop where they's like, you know what, this laptop's cool, but we're going to do our damnedest to make it really hard for you to boot the OS that's named after you and you created. And then you go out and buy it and try and run it and then get all cranker about it.
Yeah.
Okay, start with, you screwed up. You screwed the pooch, put that up on Craigslist, go buy an Asus or... Hey, Matt Harley just joined us. Haven't seen Matt. All right, go buy a System76 rig, which we'll be reviewing a new one just here in a little bit. They make laptops. Some of them are tiny. Some of them are small, and they're cheaper, and they're faster, and they will boot your system, and they won't have problems with it with any distro, so have a good time. Oh, here's the other thing.
Thank you, sir. Thank you. You nailed it, B-Man. You nailed it.
Here's the other thing. if you're really that concerned and you want to make sure that someone in your family, let's say your daughter, has full access to your system, write a simple password on a sticky note and stick it somewhere.
Or just send a password,
Fine. I mean, seriously, are you really that concerned?
Here was my question.
How many times do you change the time zone? I get that you maybe travel a lot, but seriously, do you go from San Francisco to I don't know, to Florida, and you're like, what time is it? I don't know where I am. Seriously, it's not that big a deal,
dude.
I
question of the story, B-Man. Does he have one MacBook Air that him and his daughter share? Or does he have multiple MacBook Airs? I believe he has, because Linus
just got one. He's just got to have one.
He's not going to have his laptop. Yeah. Here, sweetie, go to school. I don't need a laptop for the day.
No, that's totally what he did.
Two MacBook Airs. Because if you see a picture of Linus at his desk at home, he's got the MacBook Air on his desk. And his daughters, I mean, I'm just saying. Now, that said, I kind of understand the frustration for requiring the password for changing some of that stuff.
Why do you need to have the password data printer? I mean, I get that. That's stupid.
You know what the funny part?
It's not openSUSE engineers die stupid.
No, I know.
That was kind of stupid.
Right.
Like, it's not.
Also, just change it.
This isn't like a Fedora level screw up here, guys. This isn't like the installer won't partition your drive sort of bad. This is one extra step that's easy to go work around and takes 12 seconds.
Yeah.
To change a time zone, which probably was set correctly when you installed.
Yeah. So here's the funny thing.
Linus, I love you.
Here's the funny thing, B-Man. The funny part about this story is it has 5,719 pluses and 2,212 shares. Not to mention tons of news stories that have been written about it, right? But Linus, never one to steer away from controversy, published another post on Google+.
This was pretty winning.
Just days later that says, if I can get 4,000 upvotes for a rant on security, just imagine what a picture of a cat can do. And there you go, Linus rocking the boat once again with a picture of his cat.
12,000 plus ones and 715 shares. And over 500 plus comments there.
Yeah. I mean, I think the core of the story...
One of which from John O'Bacon declaring Linus Torvalds a dork.
Yeah, I love that was that is the second comment right there. Way to go there, Jono. Yeah. Way to go.
Jono is always right on top of monitoring everything Linus says just to call him a dork.
I love it.
That's what he does. It's like a hobby.
I wonder if Linus can call up Mark Shuttleworth and be like, fire him. Fire him.
You should die.
Yeah. Hey, what do you do when the creator of the operating system that you use for your entire business calls up and tells you to fire somebody? It's not like you tell him to go take a walk, right?
Yeah.
So moving on, B-Man, this one I just thought was interesting. You know this because you and I have been chatting offline.
You realize one of our news stories was now Linus Torvalds posted a picture of a cat on Google+.
Hey, man. If this was a Mac podcast, we would be covering way more mundane stuff about Tim Cook and Steve Jobs. I'm just saying.
That's a good point.
Right?
Yeah.
All right, let's talk about ButterFS because it is eventually going to become the future.
I wonder if the guys running Apple have posted pictures of cats to their social networks.
They're not allowed to speak in public, or else they get beaten by Tim Cook.
Apparently,
that's a thing.
Okay, continue with the Butter.
All right, so everybody knows the ButterFS is eventually going to become the future file system, the default file system.
I don't know that.
Well, B-Man, that's what people believe.
Yeah.
People believe that. Currently, universally extended 4 is the running champion of the Linux file system.
ext4 is the man.
Yeah. And probably, according to this Phronix benchmark, which I'll link for all of the different results that they have, might not be a bad idea to leave it that way for a little while, kind of depending on what you're doing. If you're doing a lot of software compiling, ButterFS seems to have the edge up. But just about everything else, here if you're watching the video version, red is extended 4, longer is better, and this kind of teal is ButterFS.
It's pretty close.
It is pretty close on a lot of the benchmarks. There's some where extended 4 kind of is match and match, and there's some where extended 4 sort of handily
loses a little bit.
Yeah, I'll go to the next page. There's some more. I kind of cherry picked.
It's an interesting article.
It's an interesting article because it kind of underscores the fact that while ButterFS is getting better and better, and it has a lot of things inspired from ZFS, and it has a lot of great support for SSDs.
Oh no, the butter is great. I love some butter, but it's
look at this one.
I spent so much time in ext2.
Oh, I might have got that
so much time in ext3.
Yeah.
And it's so much time now in ext4. Yeah. Like, it just feels like I don't want to leave. Well, it feels so comfortable. Like, there's nothing that I am lacking that I want to do from Butter. Like, I like Butter. I love the Butter feature set. But until Butter is faster.
You're wrong. I'll tell you what we want.
right,
you and I were
yeah.
talking about this after the show yesterday.
Lay it on me.
We want super awesome volume management where we can just
I do
add
want that.
disks and expand
You're right.
stuff.
I do want that.
A lot of that stuff that we want from
volume
ZFS
management
is
stuff,
in ButterFS.
Oh, that's right.
So remember I was talking about if you compile a lot of software, so this might apply to you too. I kind of got it backwards. Extended 4 was significantly faster. I mean, look at these benchmarks here. Extended 4 in some cases was half or double the speed of ButterFS with disk I/O. So that's something.
Well, see, ext4. I mean, if you're a developer and you're compiling like a bajillion different bits of source code files all together into one awesome little piece of software called Illumination Software Creator or something like that,
right?
What I've noticed is because I can build it across multiple platforms, but doing it under ext4 under Linux, my compile times is like in half of what it is on the same piece of hardware running OS 10 or running Windows. And I think a lot of that has to do with the file system that's running, because you're hitting like 1,000, opening and closing like 1,000 different little tiny files really, really fast in rapid succession. And ext4 does a great job of doing that.
It does.
It's so
in
fast.
HFS, although it handles it surprisingly well for what a limitation is.
It's kind of pokey.
It's got an issue where it can actually, I believe, only access one file at a time. It's just really good at managing that. So if you think about what a limitation that is when you're dealing with a bunch of little files, like some of the video encoding I do breaks the files up into hundreds of bits, encodes it all, and then brings it back together. That's actually how it breaks it across multiple cores.
Yeah.
That results in all these little files that HFS just is totally suck at. Where something like Extended 4, it's not an issue. Compile times and encode times can actually be a lot faster under Linux just because of the file system.
Yeah, absolutely.
So that's pretty cool. All right, B-Man, I got a link to that. That's a good article Phoronix put up. You probably want to check out the whole thing, though, because there's even more details
more than likely
in there. Now, we got 2 new games I want to talk about this week that are hitting the Linux land. The first one is called Square Enix, I say you want to call it? Well, it's from Square Enix. That's
Square
the company.
Enix, yeah. The guys that make Final Fantasy.
And they're making Wakfu.
The guys that make freaking Final Fantasy.
It's an MMO. It's Java-based, runs on Linux, and it's got 12 character classes, turn-based combat.
And the animation is great.
It's got a political system. You can become, you can take part in an evolving ecosystem around you. You can even become governor of the area, and then eventually up from there. There's new territories to conquer.
It actually looks really, really cool here. It's an isometric grid, so it's not a 3D thing. But you know, if you like the old school Diablo style or Final Fantasy Tactics or any of those sorts of look and feel of games, this is actually a pretty phenomenal looking little. Look at this video. It looks great.
And you can become like a henchman, or you can become a villain. Yeah. It actually runs on all the platforms, which is awesome. So if you move around a lot, that'll work for you. But I like the idea of, first of all, it's very stylized. It's got a very good look to it. And I like the idea of building a little ecosystem and like a village that is self-sustaining and becoming a governor of that village. And then from there, becoming a bad guy or a good guy, kind of depending on if I go corrupt. That sounds really cool. And hey, it's free.
Totally nice, right?
So check that out.
And this means that we have one of the biggest game makers in the world making games for Linux right now.
That is Wakfu for Linux. We'll link to a write-up on it that Ubuntu Vibes did, and then also you can download it.
I mean, this is huge.
Now, this next one...
Go check it out. If for nothing else, then we want them to look at their server logs and see the massive influx of Linux people coming to check this out, so that they want to make more stuff like this in the future, so that the next time they make Final Fantasy 275, the MMO, they make it for Linux as well.
Yeah,
this is what we want.
I like this as an MMO, too. I got to kind of check that out. So another game, and this is one of these games you probably want to go get now before it gets pulled for copyright violation, because
it's ridiculous.
They're ripping off 2 different franchises of this one, but it's Super Mario
plus Portal.
It's called Mario 0, and it's old school Mario with portals and also an interactive map builder.
Yeah.
So you can customize the environment and sort of...
It's actually a pretty great idea.
And build new things that Mario has to kind of get around.
Yeah.
And you have the portal gun, and you can put bad guys through the portal gun.
Yeah.
It's very fun. It's got very irreverent music, kind of like the last game.
But here's the thing. There is no way that this is going to last, because they can probably get away with the portal thing, right? Because it's kind of iffy. It doesn't really look like the portal gun fully, but then they go ahead and here, I don't know if you can see that shot on the video version, but they actually go ahead and use some of the logos from Portal.
Yeah.
They use all of the graphics from the Super Mario games.
Look, he's running around all big. This looks like so much fun.
It looks like a ton of fun. But on top of it all, their video that they put out also uses footage from the old game The Wiz. which, you know, is the old, you know...
The Wiz! Yeah, the old movie.
Great old game with Fred Savage where he goes to the Nintendo World Championships in like Universal Studios or something. So, like, there's like 18 million copyright violations here.
Yeah, even their promo video does... in fact, I almost wonder if I should even show it because we're going to get tagged by YouTube.
And it's just ridiculous. Like, I love these guys. I love that, but there's no way.
It's some balls, man. It's some real balls.
I hope that Nintendo and Valve and everyone else is like, you know what? It's cool.
I put the link in the chat room just a few seconds ago.
Downloading the game now.
Downloading it right now.
Seriously, guys, grab it if you want it, because who knows?
Yeah, seriously. All right, B-Man. Well, you had yourself a little tussle this week. You want to talk about that before we move on? I think it's kind of an interesting story.
All right. Where to start with this? All right, so you guys know that I've had a little bit of an issue with Apple. They pulled some of my apps from the App Store and whatnot. Now, some of you might be questioning, well, why are we talking about Apple or the Apple Mac App Store at all in the Linux Action Show? And here's why. Now, my company, which is me and my wife, because we are a mom and pop shop. That's why it's me and my wife.
And it's not me. I'm not a mom.
You're not my wife, so
or a mom.
You're not involved with that. So we make software for all sorts of different platforms. Now,
I was wondering though, could I talk to you about maybe an open marriage situation? Because I'd make a good third wheel. I'm just saying.
No,
I know how to make some mean bacon.
No.
Okay.
No. So what we do is we sell apps on the Mac App Store. We take that money, it funds our continued development on Linux, and it actually is currently funding some of the open source projects that we're working on.
What?
So, which is nice. So in a sense, you could look at it as we are selling to Mac users in order to actually pay for building Linux open source software, which is really, really cool, and honestly is a way I really think people should do it. A lot of other companies are doing this as well. We're not unique in that regard. Now, Apple created a bunch of snafus on their system because Apple makes terrible software, including just the software they use for their own purposes, and it breaks everything. And
now, that's true. That's scientific fact.
That's scientific fact now.
Science is proven.
Now, so all of my apps got yanked off of their app store. My account got all screwy, it got into this weird state of limbo where I couldn't do anything with it. It was just screwed up. So basically, Apple cost me a ton of money. Now, this kind of went on for a little while, and in fact, Apple just stopped returning my calls after a while. They stopped returning my emails. They just wouldn't even get back to me. So I'm like, you know what? It seems like Apple doesn't really do anything for anyone until you create a little bit of a firestorm. A
little bit of stink.
Yeah, you gotta light an entire campfire under whoever the CEO's is rear end before they fix anything for you.
I like to call it farting on the internet. You got to fart on the internet so that way they sniff it.
Yeah.
You want to make sure they sniff
you have to smell it, right?
They got to sniff your smell.
So I created a domain name. I went over to GoDaddy, registered myself a domain name called SaveMyHouseFromApple.com.
I like that. That's not dramatic at all.
No, not dramatic at all.
I like that.
Basically told my story and said, you know what, hey, we're having a hell of a time. Here's what's going on. Here's actually a link to another story where Apple screwed someone else from the exact opposite approach. Here's a story where they screwed a consumer of software.
That's odd.
And here's my story where they're screwing the developers of software. That's everybody now. So that means they're screwing every class of human being possible to screw. So here's those little stories right there, and I put up a little donation thing for people to, like, you know, kind of
help you through the rough times.
Toss a couple of coins over to my family, and in exchange I give people basically copies of my comic books, my software, my games, and everything.
Right here on the show, in front of everybody. Yeah. Is I've gotten some emails, people like, oh, you guys are talking too much about Brian software on the Mac App Store. It's a Linux show. But here's the thing. We're just a couple of guys, and this is what we do. We're both doing our things now full time, and we need support, and this is the only way we can get support is through this. And I know sometimes it's a little hard to hear about the Apple and the Mac App Store, but you know what? It's still something that's relevant to us. And we're indie dudes. We're not like, we don't have like big corporate guys.
There's no big corporate backing. There's no venture capital.
We're not getting like a monthly paycheck here.
No.
So if
certainly not from Apple right now.
If your app stops selling, your money stops coming in.
Stops coming in.
That's the thing.
Now the great news is, so far people have really been helpful. You know, we have a really cool community here.
Yeah, that is true.
And people have stepped in. I have a little button in there that just says help a guy out. Boom, you can help a guy out. You get some of my software. You kind of almost think of it as like a
daughter on there. Look at that.
That was a cheap shot. Yeah, I was like, you know, I wasn't gonna put that up, and I sent Chris over a little preview of the domain, and Chris is like, you should totally put a picture of your daughter up there.
Well, because I'm like, literally, no, it's literally money.
That's so cheap.
It's money that puts food on the plate.
I mean, okay, so here's the thing. I put a picture of my daughter up there. If you want to let that tug on your heartstrings, help me out. Feel free.
If you don't, just don't scroll down.
But here's actually the thing, and here's the thing that's even more important than, say, donating to my family and helping me out, is spreading the word about this.
Yeah.
Not only so that, you know, we get help from a lot of other people, but so that Apple takes notice of all the people that they are actually hurting. So in this one instance, in this one case where they have hurt me and my family, so that means they're hurting me and my wife and my daughter.
Right.
They are potentially hurting Jupiter Broadcasting because it limits my time and money to put into this. They are hurting every single user who has bought my software, because literally I had people reinstall their Mac OS X installs because Mac OS X is a piece of crap and has to be reinstalled in order to keep it working. It's like running Windows 95.
Brian, you're getting off track here.
Right. What was I? Correct. So they wanted to go and reinstall Illumination because they use Illumination daily.
Can't do it, Brian.
They couldn't do it because Apple has pulled the stuff off. So this actually highlights a whole bunch of different problems that Apple has, and I think this is a great opportunity for us to show people how great it is on the Linux side of things, where you can go buy DRM-free software, where you buy software that's supported directly on Linux, directly from the publishers, and tell people that that is a good thing to do, because not only are you helping the smaller companies out that way, but you're supporting Linux and you're sending a clear message to the big companies, the Apples and the Microsofts of the world, who are creating these stores that are, in the end, just hurting people, that they need to fix their ways. It's cool. I love having a cool store, like the Ubuntu Software Center. It's cool. It's great to have it there. But the thing is, if the companies are going to do that, they need to be responsive. They need to listen to their customers. They need to listen to their developers, and they need to be there to help. Canonical has been there to help us. When they have screwed up, which they really haven't much, they've been right there to help us and walk us through it, and they're great. Apple, I can't even get usually to respond to my phone calls, emails, nothing.
Maybe that's probably a good spot right there to just, that is what you just touched on, is the main core issue here. Is if you force a user base over to a new method of application distribution and then don't properly support that, a lot of the developers get hurt in the process, and then a lot of the end users get hurt in the process. So let's get this S figured out, because this is so obviously a direction that the entire technology community is moving. Even Linux distros. That we've got to get this stuff figured out.
We've got to get it figured out. We have to get this all figured out. And on a side note, I am very angry. I am angry at Apple. But even more than that, I am very angry at me, because I allowed myself to become dependent financially on Apple. I've been screwed by Apple so many times in my life. Why have I not learned
what it is?
that I simply cannot in any way rely on Apple for my livelihood? Because they've done this sort of thing before.
Because their app store is a money-making machine?
It makes money. We put it out there. Mac users go to the Mac App Store as a methods for not only buying software, but discovering software. On Linux, we really don't do that. Like the Ubuntu Software Center is really the only alternative right now. I don't use it to buy software. Sometimes I've gone in there.
I've bought a couple things.
Looked at the apps, but I've usually ended up buying it from the developer's website. Like I play Vendetta online, but I'd go to their website to buy it. And it's not because I don't like the Ubuntu Software Center. I'm just not used to doing things that way. Mac users, they totally do that.
I browse the Software Center when I want to browse. And then when I really want something, I go to the developer site.
I usually do. It's a totally different way of doing it. So anyway, I just wanted to put that all out there. If you guys do feel like helping me out, I would not turn it down. SaveMyHouseFromApple.com. More importantly, though, if you could help me spread the word about it, that's going to help us and a lot of other people as well.
Word, B-Man. All right. Well, Matt showed up. We got this really herkin rig over here.
I kind of don't want to talk about Apple anymore. I want to talk about a gigantic Linux-powered, water-cooled beast.
All right, B-Man. Well, that's all the news for this week.
I'm over here in the corner of your screen right now because there is a large machine just to my left. And this machine is really the star of this particular episode of the Linux Action Show. This is the Leopard Extreme from System76. It is a gigantic Linux-powered, water-cooled, or potentially water-cooled.
It is liquid-cooled.
It's liquid-cooled right now?
Oh, yeah. Notice the lack of decibels.
Hold on.
This is very true.
Hold on. This is very true. So this is an amazing machine. We're going to go into a full review of it in a second, along with specs, which the specs kind of broke my brain right before we started recording. But I'm going to take my microphone and I'm going to hold it up right to the back of this machine, right up against the grate without touching it, because that's weird.
These are also the most sensitive mics we have in studio, the one you're using right
This guy picks up everything. If you have a kid that is pissed off next door, it's loud and clear on this thing. So here we go. That is how loud this is.
It's on now.
That is on. That is fully rocking right now.
It's just That's awesome.
Stupidly ridiculous.
So
it's a huge beast of a tower, and it's quieter than the silent shuttle I used to have.
Right. Matt's back. Matt's been a long time since Matt's been on the show.
Hey, Matt, I see you.
Matt's one of the team members who's always working behind the scenes for Jupiter Broadcasting, and he was talking with the good guys over at System76 who sent us this review unit. Now, this is a serious machine. Let's see. I remember some of the specs. It's got 32 gigs of RAM. It's got a Core i7 with it's 3.2 gigahertz, 6 cores, which gives you 12 threads with hyper-threading. It's silent. What do you think, Matt?
It's an amazing machine. Actually, when I was running this at my home, I was just shocked. First of all, I had to tell myself it was powered on, of course, because I couldn't hear it. But once I got it running and actually made a few tweaks as far as some updates and got some software installed, I was able to really take this for a test drive and see what that actually looks like.
Right.
Now, we've actually queued up some software rather. Let's try some demos videos and actually show you what this will do. And rather than me trying to explain it with words, I thought we'd actually run through the software and show you what it does.
You got that queued up over there?
I got it queued up.
All right, let's go and take a look at this here.
All right. So this was you experimenting throughout the week, huh?
Right here, I'm actually running 2 Blender instances. I'm going really fast here, but basically this is real time. You've got Webcam Studio, you got 2 Blender instances rendering 3D text, while I'm also doing 2 sets of screen capturing software. I'm running Kazam natively, and I'm also running the Webcam Studio software recording, and I'm actually running as many widgets as I possibly can. I think I bring up a web browser here.
You're actually recording while you're doing all this.
I mean, just keeping up with how fast this thing was and trying to narrate.
It's definitely not stuttering at all. That's for darn sure.
Was this screen capture you're doing now also being recorded?
Exactly. I ran Kazam, I ran all this software, and I ran 2 of the Blender instances, and I was running a screen capture with Webcam Studio on top of the Kazam instance, and I was doing stuff in the background as well.
Wow.
I couldn't slow it down. I tried everything I could think of to bring this thing to its knees. I threw everything at it. It did not matter.
Well, I mean, you're talking 12 cores if you include hyper-threading, and
I set myself on fire for, I mean, come on. What else could I do?
That's how you test out big hardware. You set yourself on fire.
You audio listeners, this is one to definitely download the video version so you can see the demo Matt's doing here. He's like, you see that crazy guy on fire right there? That's nuts.
Exactly.
Wow.
Yeah, so I mean, it's an amazing machine, and what I love about it is that you can multitask so effectively with it. Here we are in OpenShot again. I'm actually going to show you kind of a quick render, just to kind of give you a feel for, this is a media machine. What's that feel like?
Yeah,
totally.
So let's go ahead and render that up. Of course, I'm still running Webcam Studio because why not?
Webcam Studio is a great app for a machine like this, too.
Now, this is where I basically just click as many widgets as I possibly can.
Turn them all on?
Yeah, and I want to, again, I'm trying to bring this to its knees, and I'm just, okay, let's record again, because can't get enough of that, right?
Right.
And, and I'm rendering stuff in the background, and all this stuff's happening. It's just, it can't. I couldn't slow it down. It was just the craziest thing, and it was stable to a fault. 64-bit Ubuntu ran like a champ. Getting everything running was a no-brainer. It was really, really simple.
Yeah.
I just couldn't be happier with it. So, and I tried to shorten this little video up here so you can kind of get the whole gist of everything. But as you can see, rendering
that's cranking along.
While you're still running webcam and recording the entire thing all along.
Exactly. I was recording 2 sets of screen top recording software. I mean, oh my goodness.
Running them, wow.
Yeah. And I played some video on the background just because.
That's one of those things where you put it through a load like that, and the way it actually still continues to perform is really encouraging as a media producer.
Yeah, absolutely.
That's
well, and I wanted to see how fast it recovered from one app to another. Like, what kind of delay was there? There was no delay. I was popping stuff open left and right.
Well, there you go. Yeah. So. And during all of this, how would you say, like, machine noise wise it was?
There was no noise. There was
so it didn't get any. Did it get louder than this?
No, absolutely
really
not. There was no noise whatsoever.
Now the trick is they're using a all self-contained water cooling system.
Right.
There's no big radiator. It's all inside the case.
It's all inside the case,
and it just sits on the back of the 120 millimeter exhaust.
Exactly. All right, I'm gonna pivot this around so people can see this a little better.
It's a very visual thing.
Yeah. So if you look in there, if you're watching the video version, there's a big blue fan in the back, and that's actually where the radiator sits to cool the CPU. Which is awesome. And it's got, what I really like about it, is it's got those easy off twist screws, so you just pull it and open the case right up.
No bloody knuckles, folks.
Right. And the build quality of the case and everything is extremely solid.
Well, everything in it is brand name. That's the one nice thing, is that it's when you have a warranty issue, not only will System76 actually take care of that under the warranty clauses that you've purchased it under, but also the fact that you're not looking at a proprietary power supply, you're not looking at a proprietary case.
That's nice. Really nice.
Come on. It's
System76 sort of sits here as the curators and says, all right, we can get these hardware components and we can get them work with Linux. And then as system, it's funny because I've been a System76 owner for probably 6 years on and off.
Yeah, as have I.
And one of the things I've noticed is a steady refinement in their approach. So they're taking these name brand parts, putting it all together in this really good package. I mean, this is certainly competitive with a Mac Pro.
Oh, absolutely.
And
it absolutely is.
But what they do is they kind of, in a sense, they take that Apple approach of making sure that the hardware and the software work well together without being the big restrictive dicks about it. Like, because they open source the work that they do, the drivers are available to the community. It's like they figured out how to deliver a totally integrated OS hardware package, but also still interact with the Linux community.
Well, not only that, but they're assembled either in Colorado or California. I mean, you can't get any more local than that.
Really?
Oh, yeah.
That, you know, we...
Assuming you live in Colorado, California.
No. I just know this.
Okay, yeah.
But no, yeah. I mean,
it's nice. It's right here, ready to rock and roll.
I mean, this would be like one of those things where
great.
You mentioned it earlier in the show, but Linus Torvalds was talking about how he's having trouble loading Linux on or getting Linux to work on his MacBook Air. That's not even a factor with these things.
No, well, that's the whole point of it. Is these are machines for people that I used to build computers for a living. I ran a PC repair business, and after you've done it about 1,000 times, you're kind of done with it after a while. And so for me, I just want a machine that works out of the box. Make it happen, especially when I'm wanting to deal with driver support and things like that.
You just want something to work.
Yeah.
You got better things to do.
Absolutely.
So, specs-wise, this thing came with a pretty decent video card, too,
Yeah,
right?
this is mid-level, folks. Now, bear that in mind. It goes higher than this, but this is a mid-level setup. And the mid-level was... It was great. It was absolutely.
It's got this one has the SSD.
Yes,
and but what I'm noticing it doesn't have is optical bays.
Didn't have an optical bay, but at the same time, which with the push to usually download most of your Linux software, whether it be from a nice little deb package or whether you're wanting to actually get it from the software store, which I might add. You're still allowed to get software from exterior sources, unlike some companies. You can.
Isn't that neat?
Yeah, isn't that cool?
Yeah, it's a really novel approach.
It's crazy
funny how that works.
Freedom. Who'd have thunk it? But yeah, it it does a pretty good job. So if you're looking to buy an Ubuntu box, I really highly recommend it. The push for 64-bit Ubuntu, a lot of people have had some questions about that over the years. I myself actually had some questions about that at one point, and I found that, honestly, as long as you understand the mechanics of the fact that you get all your software from the same place, it doesn't matter.
Yeah, it really doesn't. And with the push towards multi-arch right now, it just doesn't matter as much as it used to. You don't even end up, over the next few releases, you won't even need to be installing the 32-bit libraries. You just install the multi-arch, and boom, you're done.
Well, it's literally replacing it.
Now, Matt, you talked to the System76 guys a lot. Did you get a feel for, because one of the things that I've always heard when we talked about System76 in the past is, it looks like a great machine, but I don't want to run Ubuntu.
Well, as a matter of fact, on my own personal System76, well, I actually own two of them, but my desktop at home, I actually run Mint, Fedora, and Ubuntu.
Yeah, because if the hardware works for one kernel, of course, it's going to work great on all the other distros. Even if they had to do some extra drivers to make it work for one release, by the next time all the other distros release, you can either go and they have built-in support, or you can go grab the source code for that driver and make it work.
Well, and over time, I've noticed there's less and less dependency on, as far as needing the drivers specifically. The other distros I run, they just work. I don't have an issue with them.
They have a really great motherboard in this thing, and the motherboard in this machine, if you screw around with overclocking a little bit, it has a reset to default button on the back panel, like where all your USB ports are and stuff. It also has on the Mobo, it has little digits that give you error codes. So you can go look at that, and you know if there's an issue with your memory, that code tells you. You can go check at it. And I don't know if you're watching. You guys should watch the video version on this one, because look at the motherboard. That is
those little red and green buttons you see on the bottom of the motherboard.
Little LED lights.
Scroll it up a little bit. Yep. That's actually a power button and a reset button.
Yep.
Right there on the motherboard.
Looks glorious.
Too. Yep. So, and this is actually extremely handy because down the road, if I've had machines where I pull out the motherboard and I want to build it out, and I just want to make sure it works. I don't want to have to wire the little switch to the motherboard or anything like that. I can just hit that. Yeah.
Exactly.
Or just do a quick reset. So that's really cool. Also, it's got a series of LED lights in there that tell you a bunch of different things, which my board too is too.
Now, okay. So this thing ranges in price pretty dramatically depending on what you spec it out as.
Yes.
What's the Chris? I don't know if you can bring this up there right now, but what's like the low end? Like if you just want to get the rig and maybe want to expand it later.
It starts at $1,400, about that $1,399.
What happens if you give it everything?
Well, I think you could probably go.
I need to know this information.
All right,
sorry. Second generation Core i7 3.3. Okay, 36.
You want 64?
Yeah, I want 64 gigs of RAM.
All right. Do you want 1.5 gigs of video memory?
Yeah, of course I do. Yeah. Otherwise, I don't think I can run.
Do you want 1.2 of LSI hardware RAID 0, two 600 gigabyte hard drives?
Let's do solid state drives.
And it includes 2 2 solid state. Oh, it's 2 solid states in a RAID. So that's $2,400 right there.
Yeah, I need that. Okay, what's the
600
next?
gig solid states in a RAID 0.
I don't need the optical drive. You can
Okay.
leave that off.
Okay, what about a card reader?
Yeah, everything else, of course.
Yeah.
Everything.
Wireless?
Yeah, of course.
You want to get it with an LCD screen, Brian?
Well, yeah, it's System 76. I want a little
What about
sticker on
speakers,
it.
Brian?
No, I don't. Yeah, I want speakers.
Yeah,
Of
what
course I
about
want
keyboard,
speakers.
Brian?
Yeah, I want keyboard. I want everything but the optical
And
drive.
I'll give you a big old...
3-year warranty. Yeah.
All right. So now what's the price at?
$6,831.
Yeah. So really, it's whatever your budget is. If you want to go that route, you can.
It's just a really nice case and a really nice system, and then you can go wherever you need to go.
Yeah.
That's rad.
Actually, if you spec that same machine, I mean, look at the specs we went with. 64 gigs of RAM. If you spec that same machine at some other places,
Good
that's
Lord.
going to be a 10 grand machine.
Yeah, exactly.
Easy.
Yeah. So understand that what they just did there is very much the high.
Yeah.
Like you're going pro.
I'm actually shocked at how well equipped it is at the base price.
Absolutely.
too.
Yeah. See, that's
That's the thing. You could totally.
Could you imagine buying a Mac with somewhat similar hardware? How much
Exactly.
money you would pay out of your nose? Like they would take literally your whole frontal lobe, the whole thing, and turn it into money and take it.
Absolutely.
I definitely want one of these. I
Seriously.
definitely want to get one of these.
and
I
honestly,
assumed it would be loud too. Like my next machine, I want to be kind of a quiet rig, and so I looked at this guy and like the nerd lust kicked in, but I'm like, I can't get this. I just want something quiet to put under my desk.
I'm curious to see what this side of the case. Nobody ever looks at this side of the case. The back of the motherboard.
Yeah. This is the naughty side.
Yeah, nobody ever cares about this side, B-Man. Let's take a look and see what it looks like underneath the fridges.
Music going here.
There we go. We pull that graphics, man. Oh, they win. They win the spot test.
Isn't that nice and tight?
First of all, it is all the wire management's all done. But here's the thing I was looking for right there. This is
from the front.
Okay, cool.
they've removed this back panel so you can swap out the heatsink on your own without having to disassemble the entire freaking machine. Now, why would you replace this awesome water cooler? I don't know. But that's always something I look at because a lot of these machines from manufacturers come and they make sort of modifying it after the fact more of a pain in the butt.
What if you're bored with water? You want like something awesome.
Maybe
like,
I want
like liquid nitrogen cool or something
urine.
Could be
ridiculous.
cool.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
On the back, it's got Ethernet and FireWire, your standard USB. It's also got USB 3.0 audio out, and then 2 DVIs and also a mini HDMI out.
Exactly.
That might be DisplayPort.
It might be a DisplayPort, but assuming it is, and from what I could tell from the specs, it looks like it's it actually could be DisplayPort. But the cool thing about Linux and video cards and all that stuff now is it's going to work. Especially if you get the proprietary driver installed, you're going to be fine. You can
you were hooking this thing up to your TV and stuff like that.
Yeah,
so
exactly.
Yeah, and it's man. Well, I don't know what else I can say other than I want one.
Well, and the thing to remember too is that you can go mid-level, be very comfortable with it, and they have other great computers as well. I mean, just even the step down from this is pretty cool. But this is really where the hotness is at.
Well, all the parts.
Yeah, this is pretty phenomenal.
All the parts are user serviceable and replaceable.
Oh, absolutely.
So if you didn't, if you wanted to buy it with only 8 gigs of RAM and then add more RAM later, that's fine.
Exactly.
You can buy the RAM from anywhere.
Sure.
I love it from the back. I love it from the glass side of the case, but really dead on the front look of it. It just looks so. Actually, come to think of it, I got somewhere to be, guys.
Yeah, Brian, oh man, Brian. All right, well, I guess.
Well, that was that.
Well, so there we have it. So that's the Linux Action Show's look at the System76 Leopard Extreme.
That brings us to the end of this week's most spectacular broadcast. I want to thank everyone for tuning in today because it was awesome. And you should also tune in next week because next week is the 200th episode.
And we have no idea what we're doing, but one thing we might do is I got my hands. Oh, yes,
that looks like the Spark tablet, Chris.
Brian, this is the hardware for the Spark tablet. It doesn't run Plasma Active, but it is the hardware, and it's running Ice Cream Sandwich at the moment. And I could, give early impressions of what I think the Spark hardware is like.
That'd be kind of cool.
There it is, right there, B-Man. You see that?
I see that.
So I have it running.
It's a nice looking piece of hardware.
I got it. I got it at the beginning of the week. I've been using it all week long, and so we can chat. That's one thing we might chat about next week.
Glorious.
So I'll tell you, this is called the U-Pad, but soon it'll be called the Spark Tablet. And this has an unlocked bootloader, so when it comes out, I'm already buying the Spark Tablet. Guaranteed.
Oh, yeah. Well,
one, just to support their future development, but B, to get a whole integrated deal. But now I'm going to have this, a lot of stuff. We might eventually do a giveaway or something.
I mean, come on. It's an inexpensive KDE-powered tablet. I don't want, you know what I'm saying?
B-Man, I think we learned an important lesson today. awesome
that?
hardware and gadgets actually do make you happy.
Yeah.
And the old saying, you can't buy happiness, is just completely wrong.
Totally, absolutely,
Right.
completely, 100% wrong.
Happy comes in packages as big as the Leopard Extreme and
Yep.
the U-Pad.
The giant 2001-ish monolith on the desk right here earlier made me happy.
Yeah.
Touching it made me happy. I didn't even own it, and touching it made me happy.
So coming up next week, it is episode 200. We're going to do something. I want to give a mention, actually. I've gotten a way more positive feedback. Not that I thought people wouldn't still enjoy it, but I've gotten so much crazy positive feedback about my in-depth look this week that I want to tell you guys about it. I did an in-depth look on running Android on your x86 PC, so like your netbook, your laptop, your desktop, and it's Ice Cream Sandwich. It's free. There's an open source project that's porting Ice Cream Sandwich over to the PC, and I did an in-depth look, so you can go check that out. It's just like a quick 13-minute video on how to run Android on your device of choice. Yeah. And it works really well.
Yeah, it actually does.
In fact, I've got it loaded on a virtual machine over there, and so I've also got links to a virtual machine that includes Ethernet support. So if you want to play with Ice Cream Sandwich on your machine for free,
good to go.
Go watch that.
Ready to rock and roll.
Yep. Find
totally
it over at
awesome.
jupiterbroadcasting.com.
Totally awesome. All right, what else we got? We got the linuxactionshow.reddit.com. Lots of fun over there. Again, if you have ideas for the 200th show, please go over there and let us know.
Also, I just got to mention, a lot of the stories we cover, like almost all of them, come from that Reddit.
Seriously.
And there's almost always really good conversation threads around that news topic in that subreddit. And if you guys want to get a little extra to every story we talk about, that's a great place.
That's the way to go. It's like the best subreddit there is. Good conversations, great content
also,
before anyone else gets it. It's awesome. Yeah.
Dude, the new theme for the subreddit, which I think came out like last week.
Looks good.
Here, I got to pull it up because it's like the best looking Reddit on Reddit. It really is.
It's the best of the Reddit, is really what it is.
It's got like this awesome style sheet applied to it. You can't really see so much on the video, but there's shadows, and I just like it.
Got a little shell on the side.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's great.
Yeah,
it's great. Anyway, it's fantastic. That's the place to be. We will be back here next Sunday, 10 a.m., same Linux Action Show place, same Linux Action Show channel. That's fantastic. Is there anything else we need to tell them about?
No, I think I'll just start.
Is that covered?
I'll just do my typical wrap-up right here, right now, B-Man. I want to say thanks to everyone for tuning into this week's episode of the Linux Action Show. And we'll see you right back here. Next week.
Next week.
Hopefully. Oh, my God.
Next week. We'll be back. 200 next week.
Let's do the news. Boom, 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 boom.
That's good stuff right there. Oh, come on now. That's fun.